Hi, I'm Antonio Centeno. I'm the founder of Real Mint Real Style. Today I'm going to be speaking with you about how to match your necktie with your dress shirt and with the jacket. So many of you guys out there, I know you're building a wardrobe and you're trying to make a determination. How do I match all of this? How do I make it look great? How do I get a look that looks like it's well put together? On the other hand, it's got a bit of a casual flair to it. So guys, we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to give you 5 foundational rules. These rules aren't going to be exact. I'm not going to give you exact combinations. And really when it comes down to it, there are so many different ties out there, so many different patterns of shirts, so many different types of fabrics used in sports jackets, suits, and blazers, that if I tried to give you an exact of put this combination together, it wouldn't work. Instead, I give you foundational rules that you can use in any situation to basically solve the equation. Now, before we get started, guys, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. Please go over and subscribe to this YouTube channel. By doing that, these videos come right to you. In addition, if you like this, if you find it useful, go ahead and like the video. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know how we can make these things better, and we'll support this with an article where I'm going to go into a lot more detail. So the number one rule, whenever you're putting all of this together, is remember, you want your tie to complement the shirt and the jacket, not the other way around. You're not buying, and when you're building a wardrobe, you're not going out there and selecting ties that you like and then trying to find shirts and jackets that match them. No, let's start with the most expensive, the biggest investment items first, and that's going to be usually your jackets, your suits, which this is a sports jacket, so that's where I'm referring to it as such, your shoes, your dress shirts. These are the items that you're going to spend, in some cases, hundreds if not thousands of dollars on the suits and sports jackets and the shoes. Shirts, anywhere from $50 to, well, higher end ones, a couple $100. But I know a lot of you guys are out there maybe looking at $50, $70 for your shirts, maybe a couple $100 for the jacket or the suit jackets. The ties, on the other hand, you can be picking those up for $10, $20, $50, $100, depending on the quality, depending on where it's built, depending on the material that's used. However, notice the difference in cost. When it comes down to it, gentlemen, match your tie to the outfit. Don't try to match your outfit to the tie. And the key to do this is then to keep your jackets, to keep your suits very simple. I pretty much, throughout my wardrobe, and I got a smaller wardrobe than what a lot of people think, all of my jackets are pretty much solid, the ones I wear most often. With my shirts, I keep those pretty solid as well, although I do have a number of small repeating patterns. Most of them are in blue, white. Those are the ones I wear almost in all of my videos. Really, when it comes down to it, having an interchangeable wardrobe is about keeping it simple, because the cool part is that, yes, most of my shirts and my jackets, some people will consider it boring or plain, but I look at ties, I look at pocket squares, I look at my accessories as spice. And so this is where I get to have fun. So if you set your wardrobe up right, and this is a very key point, which is why it's number one, guys, you can then bring in a wide variety of neckties. So we've talked about matching the tie to your interchangeable wardrobe. Now let's talk about proportion. Okay, so proportion, this is basically the width and the length of the tie. If I pull this tie out right here, and I measured it from point to point, what I'm going to get is about here, about 3.25 inches, maybe 3.5 on this necktie. You want your necktie, and if you're in a store and you don't have a measuring tape with you, what you can do is you can take out a dollar bill. Most dollar bills are about 6 inches long. Just fold it in half, and that's about 3 inches. And you can use that to give you a rough guide. But guys, if you start to go beyond 3.5 inches into the 3.75, 4 inch range, really you've gone too far. You want to avoid that type of a necktie. Also, if it starts getting too thin, starts going below 3 inches, all of a sudden that's getting into skinny tie range, and you want to be careful. The reason proportion is so important is it's going to determine whether or not a necktie is classic and whether or not it's going to look proportioned when someone looks at you. So another thing to look at is the width of your lapels, and make sure that it's approximately the same width as your necktie. And that's a good way, and why I always preach keeping things classic. So we've talked about basically proportion. Now let's move into pattern. So obviously solid necktie, pretty simple. Now there's a wide variety and a wide range of patterns out there. So we want to look at dots, solids for neckties. We want to look at small repeating patterns. We're going to see stripes, and that's going to be thin stripes to regimental stripes to wider stripes. We're going to see paisleys out there. So the key with matching patterns is that you do not have the same patterns right next to each other. So my shirt has some stripes going down. The jacket, pretty much solid. The tie, therefore it's a different color, and that's why this works. Now I could bring in paisleys, I could bring in dots, I could bring actually in regimental stripes. All of those, assuming that the color, which is the next point we'll get into, all of those would work with this combination. And that's, again, the beauty, going back to point one, of keeping your wardrobe simple and timeless. So point number 4, let's get into it, color. Okay, so there are going to be some that are easier to match. I'm a big fan of blues, greens, purples, most of them in a cool, basically a cool tone. And what do I mean by that? It means it has a little bit of a shade, has a little bit of, instead of it being brighter or lighter, it's going to instead be a little bit darker. So if you look at this right here, this color, this has, you know, I would say this is a nice royal purple. And this is going to go with a wide range. Now, if this went with a lighter color like a lavender, once you get into lavenders, yellows, light pinks, light greens, those are going to be they become a little bit harder to match. Now, reds, orange, and golds. You see those a lot in neckties. Now, those are going to draw attention. And whenever you're using those type of neckties, make sure that you know that the purpose is going to be to draw attention, kind of like a robin who's out there on a spring day and he's got that big orange, you know, breastplate, which he's using to attract mates. So you want to be thinking, if you're going to be up giving a presentation, that's when you want to draw attention to the chest, to the facial area, and you're going to want to bring in the reds, oranges. Don't go too bright, and try to avoid, really, I would say, anything in neon. Anything like that, again, that sort of gets into costume wear, and I try not to bring that into your wardrobe. Also, you know, we've talked about patterns, costume wear, so anything that's like got a character on it, or, you know, you maybe see those Father's Day ties out there that have a cartoon character. Try to avoid those neckties. I know some people get them as gifts, and I used to have one with Spider-Man on it. I love that necktie, but that is going to be very informal and not something. It's going to draw a lot of attention to the necktie, which, you know, I guess if that's what you want to have fun with, then go for it. But it is not a classic formal necktie, and definitely is going to maybe draw some unwanted attention to you. So we've talked about ties actually matching the outfit. We've talked about proportion. We've talked about pattern. We've talked about color. Now let's talk about style. So you're going to see bolo, woven, wool, silk, cotton ties, wide variety of materials that ties are made from. Focus on and go with classic silk. I think that's a great place for a man to start. From there, you could look to maybe bring in a woven, look to bring in cotton, maybe something made from wool. Bolo, you know, I guess if you're down in New Mexico, you can pull that off, or if maybe you're over in West Texas, you can pull it off. But be careful with regional wear, cravats, ascots, all of this other stuff that's worn here, bow ties, not really, you know, it depends, and bow ties I can have an entire separate section on. I'm not saying not to wear bow ties. They're actually very useful, but I would say that once you get away from the necktie, from the one that goes up and down, it is something that you got to be aware of. Is it a cultural thing? Down in, you know, Alabama, Mississippi, bow ties are much more common, and it's something you'll see, but you need to be aware of the message those send. So guys, hopefully this helped and it gave you a better idea. If you want more information, you know, I've written an entire article in which I go into a lot more detail. So go check that out. It's in support of this video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.